How's it going, guys? This week we are going over the Scarlett Keep Grandmaster Nightfall that is going live in Destiny. Now this Nightfall can be a bit tricky. It has arc burn. I'm not a huge fan of arc burn. I feel like arc burn is heavily RNG. Sometimes it one-shots you and sometimes it doesn't. And quite frankly, this Grandmaster has a few tricky spots to go over. So let's get right into it after the word from our sponsors. Just like the previous video, we're going to go over our loadouts first. So for me, I ran Thunder Crush Titan with the Armamentarium. This was the build that I put up on my channel this past weekend, so if you want to go check that out, I'll put a link in the description, and it'll be the clickable one at the end of the video during my outro, whatever you want to call it, it'll be that one as well. I run Revision 0 to help deal with barrier champions, and quite frankly, Revision 0 is an amazing pulse rifle. It's probably one of my favorite ways to deal with champions right now. Could be the honeymoon phase like it was with Wishender, but this is a very good pulse rifle, especially since I have it crafted with armor-piercing rounds and Vorpal weapon with 4 times a charm. It works very, very well. Salvager Salvo, so this way I can use my chain reaction to take care of ads as well as deal with unstoppable champions. And then finally Sail Spy Pitch Glass, because it's an arc heavy linear and I prefer to use the single shots over like Storm Chaser with the 3-shot. It's a lot more easier to land those precision shots. As for mods, I ran Explosive Well Maker to make my solar wells, Elemental Charge and Heal Thyself, so this way I can become charged with light and heal myself with my grenades. Well of Ordnance to refill some of my grenades, and then Bountiful Well so I can make 2, because stacks of light work weird with elemental charge and picking up wells, whatever. You should probably know that by now, especially if you watched my video last weekend. That's what I ran. My first teammate ran Gerfalcons with Mobius Quiver on his Hunter. He ran Ignition Code that had blinding grenades and Vorpal weapon. Collective Obligation for his Gerfalcons build, so we could keep going invisible and keep getting his volatile rounds to proc to just absolutely decimate a bunch of ads. And Memory Interdict because it has chain reaction and it can also spread those volatile explosions. As for mods, he ran Bountiful Wells, Well of Utility, Elemental Ordnance, Font of Wisdom, and Reaping Wellmaker, all to play back into whatever build setup he was working with for his Gerfalcons and his volatile rounds. It worked very well for getting rid of the majority of the ads, which honestly, there's a ton of Thrall in this particular strike, so the volatile explosions really helped get rid of and deal with those just massive waves of Thrall. And my final teammate was a Thunder Crush Titan as well with Heart of Inmost Light using Storm Grenades, the classic build. We ran Wishender for anti-barrier because Wishender is still a very, very, very good choice to deal with anti-barrier champions inside of Grandmaster Nightfall content. For Barons, for basically the same reason, I was running my Salvager Salvo. That chain reaction damage is just really, really good. Plus, it can also deal with unstoppable champions. And finally, Cataclysmic, because there are solar shields in this strike, and that was our way to deal with them. Just fire one Cataclysmic at them, pop their shield, and we can deal with it, because the wizards in this particular strike can be a hassle, and we're going to go over that later when one of the wizards decide to troll us like crazy, so we'll go over that when we get there. For mods, he ran Elemental Ordnance, Firepower, Elemental Charge, Elemental Time Dilation, and Weaken Clear. Now, I don't have it listed here, but I'm also pretty sure he was running Firepower as well because of Elemental Time Dilation, but I found that Weaken Clear probably fit better with the whole idea of his build for my little loadout section. Now that the loadouts have gone over, we can now begin breaking down this strike and giving you tips and tricks on how to get through it. So when you load into this Nightfall, you're going to be immediately met with a handful of ads. Now these ads normally aren't a problem, but they will quickly remind you that this is a Grandmaster Nightfall, and they could easily wipe you here if you're not paying attention. Just look at the example on screen. Now once you've rezzed your unfortunate teammates and you have killed that final knight who seems to bully them, we can move down a little hallway and then deal with a few acolytes before pushing into a room with the first barrier champion. Now in this room there are a few acolytes on the side that are going to snipe at you, and then you're going to want to drop down and deal with the barrier champion. Once the barrier champion has been dealt with, you can just move forward dealing with these ads as you see fit while walking down the stairs before we get to the 2-tower room. Now, like Lord of the Rings, there are 2 towers. There's one on the left and there is one on the right. As soon as this part activates, there are going to be 2 barrier champions that spawn. There's going to be one on the left and one on the right. Now, depending on which way you go, depends on which barrier champion you deal with first. If you want to go left, deal with that left one first, take care of him, walk down the path, defeat the ads, kill the wizard that's guarding the little void orb, grab the void orb, and start walking back up that pathway. Now, as soon as you grab the void orb, more ads are going to spawn, as well as another barrier champion at the top of this ramp. Defeat the ads and the barrier champion, deposit the orb, and then you're going to repeat the process for the next side, except now you're going to have to deal with that other barrier champion that spawned, and he can be roaming, probably usually towards the back where these stairs are. Take care of him, walk up the little ramp, take care of the ads, defeat the wizard again, pick up the orb, kill the other barrier knight, deposit the orb, and the bridge will begin to lower. Now, once the bridge begins to lower, there's going to be a ton of ads that spawn here, including an unstoppable champion. All of these ads will absolutely melt you if you are not careful, just from the sheer quantity of ads that there are. Blinding nades came in very huge here. I still died to the unstoppable champion because I just had nowhere to go. But deal with all those ads, you can push up, deal with a few more acolytes, and then once you get to the middle area of this bridge, just past where those acolytes are, more wizards are going to spawn. Again, they're solar shielded, thankfully. Our friendly had Cataclysmic. That helped to deal with that quickly and efficiently. Deal with these ads, push up again. We are going to get to a Shrieker. Now, this Shrieker is going to absolutely bully you, because at the same time as a Shrieker spawn, there is going to be an anti-barrier champion. What you and your teammates are going to want to do is figure out which one you're going to focus first, whether it be the Shrieker or the anti-barrier champion. It is completely up to you and your team, but if someone has blinding grenades, they can easily keep that Shrieker distracted while you and your other teammate deal with the anti-barrier champion. Now, once you defeat that Shrieker in the night, you can move on to the next area. Now, while moving to this next area, there are a few acolytes and the wizard who bullies. Now, this wizard almost killed me and actually killed both of my teammates. We would shoot her, she would float down, and normally they despawn or they die, and she didn't. She kept teleporting back up, catching us off guard, and killing us. And the problem is that we went to go kill her the second time, the same thing happened. I was like, oh, she's dead for sure this time. Sure enough, she floated back up, teleported back up, killed one of my teammates. And when we actually went to go defeat her because we just had enough of it, she still almost killed me around the corner moving into the next area. So be mindful of this wizard. She's a troll. Now, in the next area, as soon as you walk in, there's going to be an anti-barrier champion on a little platform to your left-hand side. Take care of him. He will move towards the center, so just deal with him as you need to. He's really not that much of a problem. Now, in the next area where the death totems are, or whatever you want to call them, this part can be very challenging. As soon as you step on a plate, an anti-barrier champion is going to spawn along with a ton of ads. Now, I highly recommend doing this one at a time. This actually went a lot quicker than if we were to split up, because then we're not just overwhelmed by ads. We all did the middle one first, dealt with the barrier champion, then we went to the left-hand side, dealt with the wizard, the ads, and the anti-barrier champion, and then we finally did the last thing for the left side. Once all three of those plates have been cleared, we can then move up through the path to the bridge area before the elevator. Now, in this part, there is going to be 3 or 4 anti-barrier champions. There's going to be one on the pathway just before you get to the outer wall where you run along. Deal with him, move on to that outer wall, and there's going to be, I believe, another one just hanging out on one of the, raised platforms. Take care of him, move forward, and when you move forward, obviously there's going to be a bunch of, acolytes and thralls rushing you. Deal with them as you see fit. Don't do, completely up to you. When you get towards the end, there's going to be another Shrieker, so be mindful of that and take care of it. While walking into the elevator room, there should be another barrier champion on that bridge, and then once you get into the elevator room, there should be another champion that spawns basically right on the elevator. Deal with all these champions and the ads, and then we can actually take the elevator up the tower to deal with Hashladun herself. Now, while riding the elevator, be careful because there are acolytes that can spawn in the little crevices and try to snipe you. Normally, we would run this with an Omnioculus Hunter, and we would just stay invisible the entire time, but we didn't have that this time, but it is still very doable. Just be mindful of where they spawn, take care of them, and don't fall off the elevator. When you get to your first stop, the left and right doors are going to be open, so just go through whichever one you want. Look the way towards the middle and deal with the barrier champion that spawns and the wizard. Once you kill the wizard, you can go back to the elevator, shoot the crystal, and take it up to the next stop. At the next stop, the middle door is open and there's going to be an unstoppable champion that spawns. Take care of the unstoppable champion and then figure out which wizard you want to go for first. I highly recommend doing them together as a team just because it's quicker that way, more damage output, get rid of them. Once both the wizards have been taken care of, take the elevator all the way to the top where we can finally get into the boss room. Now, in the boss room, to start, there are going to be 2 solar shielded wizards. Take care of them both, and the boss fight will actually start. Hashladun will come out, drop her invulnerability shield, and now can be damaged. Now, what me and my team always do is we go to the back of the room where it's kind of protected by a few pillars because she will just bombard you. Also, be careful because she has a ground attack that can boop you into the air and potentially kill you with just physics or throwing you off the map, so be careful of that as well. Once you get her down 1/3 of her health, she's going to become immune and she's going to spawn more ads. Now, I know there is a ton of acolytes and thralls that spawn here. I can't remember if there's any barrier champions, but if there is, obviously deal with them and deal with the solar wizards, because once the solar wizards die, she is then damageable again. Do another 1/3 of her health, and now 2 unstoppable champions are going to spawn along with, again, more ads. deal with these ads very carefully. Make sure the champions are dealt with. Her shields are going to drop one last time, and you can give her all you got and see all that beautiful loot drop on the right side of your screen. Now, that is the end of the video, the full guide, all that good stuff, the loadouts. Now, I don't know what the weapon is going to be this week. I'm doing this beforehand because I like to try to stay ahead of schedule. So I don't exactly know what the weapon is going to be. Hopefully it's something good. I think it's either going to be DFA or Horror's Least. I can't remember. I think it's Horror's Least. But if I'm wrong, obviously, just whatever drop it is, I hope you enjoy. I hope you get the god roll you want. Of course, check out the links down in the description for my sponsors as well as our Discord link. We're trying to grow that so we can become our own full-blown community, so please consider clicking that. And of course, I hope you all have a good week.